everybody. This is part 2 of section 9.6 on we graphed the conics off of HK in the last lesson. So this is, we're still graphing it, but this is we got to complete the square. So we're going to give it an equation. It's going to be asking you to state what kind of conic equation it is, put it in standard form, and then graph it. So I think examples will help explain this right off the bat here. So let's go ahead and start this one here. So classify the conic and write its equation in standard form, then graph the equation. Okay, so this one right here, you guys, can you see there's a plus sign right there, and there's an x squared and there's a y squared, and since there's different numbers in front of the x squared and the y squared, this is an ellipse, you guys. Okay, now if it was a minus sign right there, then it would automatically be a hyperbola. I wouldn't care about the numbers in front. If they're both being squared, and if it was a minus, it would be a hyperbola. And I have an example of one of those also. So here's an ellipse, you guys. So our goal is to get it in one of these forms. Notice H always hangs out with X, K always hangs out with Y. So HK is your center of this guy. So you have to look at the last lesson if you're kind of lost, and please look at part 1 of this lesson. Okay, and this is the same thing, you guys, except the only thing that switches is the a squareds and b squareds. A is the bigger number, so depending on if the bigger number is underneath the x or if the bigger number is underneath the y, that'll tell me whether it's going to be horizontal if it's underneath the x, or if it's underneath the y, it's a vertical ellipse. Okay, your center is at HK right there. Okay, all right, so what we're going to do now is we're going to complete the square. So we're going to go back to our Algebra 1 class and the beginning of our Algebra 2 class on completing the square. So I threw this 8 on this side, this minus 8, I just did plus 8 to both sides right there, and then I grouped the x's together, the x squared and the 8x, and then I put just the y's. The y, there's no like, you know, minus 2y or plus 5y or something, so I don't have to complete the square with this one. I have to complete the square with this one. So before I complete the square, this has to be a 1x squared, so I'm going to pull a 4 out of that, but that means I got to pull a 4 out of the 8 also, so you'll see what I did that right here. See how I pulled the 4 out of the 4x squared, and I pulled the 4 out of the 8 right there, and they became x squared minus 2x. Imagine if I redistributed this 4 through. 4 times x squared would get me 4x squared. 4 times negative 2 is negative 8. So before I complete the square, this has to be 1 right there. All right, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to create some space right there, and to complete the square, I'm going to add a number inside of this parenthesis right there. And this number right here, whatever that number is, it's actually 4 times that number. So whatever I do to the left of this equal sign, I got to balance it out and do to the right of this equal sign. So that's why it's 4 times whatever this number is right there. All right, now to complete the square, we always take half of this number, half of 2 is 1, and then square that. So 1 squared is 1. So I'm going to add a 1 right there and add a 1 right there, which is actually adding 4 over there, 4 times 1. Okay, so I'm going to add 1. And again, I got the 1 from half of 2 squared. So half of 2 is 1, 1 squared is 1. So I actually added 1, but I'm really adding 4 times 1 on the left. So I got to go over here on the right and add 4 times 1 over here. Okay, that's 4. 8 plus 4 is 12. All right, and then this becomes, when I complete the square, this is it becomes a binomial squared. It's x minus 1 squared. The square root of this is x. The square root of 1 is 1. So it's 4 times the quantity x minus 1 squared right there, plus the y squared, and then 8 plus 4 is 12. Okay? All right. So you know, the first one you go through, it's kind of confusing, but after you see, you know, the second one or the third one and all the way up to like the 50th one, they get really easy. I'm just kidding, you guys. But after you see it a few times, it should start unwinding here. Okay, we're almost done, you guys. All right, now this is an ellipse, you guys, because there's a plus sign right there. Ellipses have to equal 1. So our goal was to get it to look like this, either this one or this one. So since it equals 12, I'm going to divide everything by 12. So when I divide by 12, I get x minus 1 squared over 3, because 4 goes into 12 3 times, plus y squared over 12 equals 1. Okay, now I look for the bigger number, you guys. The bigger number is underneath the 12. Okay, so this is I'm sorry, the bigger number is underneath the y. The bigger number is 12. The bigger number is underneath the y squared, so it's a vertical ellipse, you guys. So my center is at, remember you do the opposites, so this is like a y minus 0 squared. So my center is at 1, 0. Okay, so there it is right there. I graphed it right there. My HK is at this 1, 0. And then from this 1, 0, I go up and down the square root of 12. Well, the square root of 9 is 3. Square root of 16 is 4, so the square root of 12 is right about in the middle. It's about 3.5. Okay, so I'm going to go up 12 from the center point. I'm sorry, up the square root of 12 from the center point. So if I go up about 3.5, there it is, right about there. Okay, so my x coordinate is 1, my y coordinate is square root of 12, which is 2 root 3. Okay, because this is 1, 0, so I add root 12, which is 2 root 3. So this has ordered pair right here, 1 comma 2 root 3. This has ordered pair 1 comma negative 2 root 3. Okay, and then how much do I go over to the left and to the right? It's the square root of 3. Okay, the square root of 3 is about 1.7. So remember, I'm going to go over about 1.7 from the center right here. So here's 1.7 right there. Here's 1.7. Okay, so remember this is the ordered pair 1, 0. So when I go to the left root 3, it's going to take me back. So this is going to be 1 minus the square root of 3. This over here is going to be 1 plus the square root of 3. It's still on the x-axis, so it's still comma 0 on both of those. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and draw my ellipse. My ellipse is going around like that. Okay, and then we're just forgetting about the focus point. So remember, ellipses have plus signs, so c squared formula has a minus sign. So c squared is going to be a squared minus b squared. So 12 minus 3 is 9. So c is going to be plus or minus the square root of 9. Okay, so your focus points, your foci, are going to be vertical because this is a vertical ellipse. So it's going to be on this axis right here. This is my major axis right here. So this is at 1 comma 3, and this is going to be at 1 comma negative 3. That's why it's at 1 plus or minus 3. Okay, all right, there's an ellipse, an example of ellipse. Let's try this guy right here. Okay, now check it out. They're both being squared. It's kind of deceptive, you guys, because that's a plus sign right there, but that's a minus sign right there. So they're actually subtracting right there. So this is actually a hyperbola, you guys, because they're both squared and there's a minus with the x squared. All right, so I see some 32x, I see some 12y, so I got to complete the square with the x's and the y's. So let me rearrange them, you guys. Our goal is to get it in that form. Notice the y is first because it's the positive one right here, and the x is second because it's the negative one right here. Okay, so my goal is to get it in this form right here. All right, and so we're going to rearrange them. So I rearranged it. Notice the y's come first, you guys. So it's the y squared, then I put the minus 12y. I threw the constant number over there, so I did plus 32 to that side right there. And then I pulled the negative 4 out. And so when I pull a negative 4 out of that 32, it becomes negative 8. Imagine if I redistributed the negative 4 back through, it would get me back to plus that 32x right there. All right, so now I'm going to create a space for here and create a space for here, and then I'm going to take half the middle guy and square it. Okay, so here's my y minus 12, y squared minus 12y is right here. Here's my minus 4, and then it's inside, it's x squared minus 8x, so there's that right there. Okay, so now I'm going to take half of this number, which is 6. 6 squared is 36, so I'm going to add 36 right there and right there. Do you see my red question marks? Okay, that's a dark purple. I don't know if you can see dark purple at home. That's a dark purple right there. I'm going to take half of 8, which is 4. 4 squared is 16. So I'm going to add 16 inside of here, but I'm actually doing a negative 4 times 16. So that's going to go right there. Okay? So again, I did half of 12 is 6. 6 squared is 36. There's plus 36 plus 36. Here I did half of 8, which is 4. 4 squared is 16, so I did plus 16 in there, but it's actually a negative 4 times 16, so there it is right there. Okay, this becomes the binomial y minus 6 squared. This becomes the binomial x minus 4 squared, and it has the negative 4 in front of it. And then these two come out to be 4, I think it is, when I did that. Yeah. All right, so my center is at, remember, h always hangs out with x and k always hangs out with y. So h, k, so 4 comma 6 is my center point right there. Okay, so there it is, 4, 6. Notice I did my tick marks by 2. 2, 4, 6, 8, and so on. Okay, so there's 4, 6 right there. All right, and then I'm going to go it's going to have, I think I did my box first, you guys. My box is, you can do your intercepts too if you want, you guys. My intercepts are plus or minus 2 from this guy right here. I square root the number underneath there, so you can go up 2, down 2, and that would be my vertices, actually, my vertices of my hyperbola. Okay, let's do the box, you guys. The box is square root of this is 1, square root of that is 2. So I'm going to go to the left and right 1. Remember, the squares count as 2. So I'm going to go right about there, and then right about there, and then from here I'm going to go up and down 2. So right here, and that's going to be my box. And then there's my vertices right there. My vertices are up and down 2, so my box is over 1 on both sides, and then up 2, down 2. Okay, and then my asymptotes, you connect those diagonals. Remember that? We connect those diagonals. Those are the asymptotes. Some teachers say asymptotes. I don't know. Okay, and then your hyperbola goes through the vertices, and I say they flare out. They infinitely get close to the asymptotes. So there's my hyperbola right there. All right, let's get the focus points. Since hyperbolas have minus signs, c-squared formula has a plus sign. 4 plus 1 is 5, so it's the square root of 5. So if I go up root 5 from the center and down root 5, the square root of 5 is about 2.2. Okay, so, oops, I think I did them wrong, you guys. 2.2 should be right there. This little point, I don't know if it's going to let me move that, is it? Oh, it is, yeah. Okay, so it should be from the center. I was doing it from the vertices, you guys, so it should be from the center. So up about 2.2 and then down about 2.2. All right, pretty slick. Okay, so there's the focus points right there. So this is at 4, 6 minus root 5, and this is at 4, comma 6 plus root 5 right there. Notice it's vertical, so my x's don't change, so my x is going to be constant. It's the y's that are getting changed by the focus points right there. All right, let's do one more, you guys. Let's do a parabola. Okay, this guy's a parabola because only the y is being squared. So since the y is being squared, I want to get it in this form. Y minus k squared equals 4p times x minus h. Remember, h hangs out with x, k hangs out with y. Okay, I'm going to complete the square with the y's, okay? And then put all the x stuff on the right-hand side. All right, so here we go. So I put all the x stuff on the right-hand side and the number. I put the subtracted 25 from both sides, subtracted 8x, and then I'm going to complete the square. Half of 6 is 3. 3 squared is 9. I'm going to add 9 there and add 9 right there. So that's going to get me to that. And then that's going to get me to, when I factor that, it's y minus 3. This becomes negative 8x plus 16. Remember, I want to have this 4p on the outside and have that a positive x minus h. So I pull a negative 8 out of both of those, and it gets me x plus 2. So now my vertex of this parabola is going to be at hk, so negative 2, comma 3. Okay, and since y is being squared, this one's opening to the left because that's negative right there. So there's the vertex right there. Okay, and then 4p, here's 4p equals that negative 8. So p equals negative 2. So if I go to the left 2, there's my focus. Go to the right 2, there's the directrix right there. Remember, the parabola always surrounds the focus point right there. Okay? All right, so I think we're good on that one. If you are in my class, I would assign that as your homework. Okay, and if you're finding that these videos are helpful, click like, you guys. That would mean a lot to me. Take care, everybody.